Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Total Telephony. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through some introductions before we go into the Total Telephony webinar. So I'm Sam Connor. I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we're Bitrix24 Gold partners. And we're based here in the UK, the US, and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sales support. So if you're currently evaluating the Bitrix24 system, then we can help you with that evaluation process. So we can build bespoke demonstrations and go through your requirements to see if Bitrix24 could be a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. And if it is, we offer a full range of implementation services so we can set up your Bitrix24 system exactly how you need it to work. And there are two editions of Bitrix. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and then with the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. So if you're looking at a self-hosted option, essentially a private cloud edition, we can provide our hosting service. And we also provide ongoing dedicated support and bespoke training to help businesses get the most possible value out of the Bitrix24 system. And if you are joining today's webinar to actually understand a bit more about Bitrix at a high level, let's just go through what Bitrix24 encompasses. So Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess of 40 different tools and modules that essentially you can use to manage your entire business. Okay, so it ranges from CRM, marketing, project management, workflow processes. Specifically today, we'll be focusing on the telephony features, but essentially it's an all-encompassing system that you can utilize. And there are more than 15 million businesses now around the world that use the Bitrix24 system. And it's available in two different editions, as I've just mentioned there. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and we have the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution, which essentially it's a private cloud edition of Bitrix24. And in terms of pricing, so prices start from $49 per month for a cloud-based system. So that's starting on the basic cloud. And on a self-hosted, it starts on the Business 50 edition, which is priced at $3,590 per annum. And then with the self-hosted, you'll pay a 50% renewal fee to continue to access and utilize the system. And if you do have any other questions about Bitrix24 at a high level, you can contact us, sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to assist you. Okay, so today's webinar is Total Telephony. So we'll be looking at the telephony integration features available in the Bitrix24 system. But before we actually go into the telephony module, let's just understand why you can and why you should use Bitrix24 for the telephony features. So first of all, Bitrix has a built-in phone system. So it's relatively easy to start using telephony integration features. You can rent a number from Bitrix24 and then start to use the in-house phone system here that is encompassed in the Bitrix product. It is also possible to integrate with existing PBXs, and we have a CRM integration. So if you're looking for a very tight integration in the CRM, then I'd recommend renting the Bitrix number, and we'll take a look at what that integration does today. But it's a really powerful area because it allows all of the communication log to be routed to the relevant contact record inside the CRM. We have really powerful reporting, so you can build dashboard reports analyzing the call volume and your call center reps and analysis of phone calls. And in terms of costs, so we'll go through the cost in the webinar, but if you're renting a Bitrix number, it's a fairly low initial cost for renting of the system. Okay, and what we'll go through today are two different options for telephony inside Bitrix. So the first option we're going to look at today is the Bitrix telephony option. So this is renting a number through Bitrix24. Okay, so this is going to be a brand new number that you rent per month, and it's integrated into the Bitrix system. And then you have a second option, which is an integration with an existing phone provider that you could then connect into Bitrix24. Okay, so what we'll start off with today is looking at Bitrix telephony. And as we go through this, if you have any questions, please do add them into YouTube. We are here live today, so we can answer your questions live during the session today. So the first option here is Bitrix telephony. So this is where we're renting a number from Bitrix24. So just to outline some of the key aspects to this. So first of all, this will be a brand new number that you are renting. You can't use an existing number. And you're renting this number each month. Okay, so if you decide to stop renting the number, you can't take the number with you. Okay, so those are some of the key aspects that you need to understand with Bitrix telephony. But with the number, we'll see it's very low setup cost, averages around $6 per month for renting of the number. And you can then set up a virtual phone system inside your Bitrix system and have this integrated with your CRM platform. So let's go into our Bitrix and we'll see how we can set up the telephony integration. So on your edition of Bitrix, you'll either, if you're on a cloud or if you're on self-hosted, it's the same here. You'll have a module called telephony. So what we want to do is go into this module. Okay, and then from inside here, the first option we're looking at today is renting a Bitrix24 number. So what we want to do is go to the rent a number area here and click on that button. What we can then do is we can choose the country that we want to rent a number for. So with me being in the UK, I'm going to select the UK. Then based on that country, you may have the option to select a type of number. So let's say if I want a local number, I can select local, and then I can choose my region from the system here. So let's say with me being in Sheffield, I could select a local Sheffield number to use. So with this option here, the renting of a number, it will cost, I say approximately, because it is an approximate, around $6 per month to rent a number. Inbound calls are included in that cost. And then outbound calls, they're charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. Okay, so let me just add the call rates here into our YouTube chat. So it's important to check this and analyze to see if this is going to be appropriate for you and your call requirements. So that's how we can select our number. Again, just a few things I want to point out to you here. With certain jurisdictions, let's say if I select Germany, then there can also be a one-off connection cost as well. So that's something you need to check when you're selecting the country and the type of number. And also for certain jurisdictions, as you can see here, please note that a valid postal address is required for the location you're about to rent a phone number for. Failing to provide a valid address may potentially result in phone number disconnection. So this is a really important aspect that I just want to show you here, that for certain countries where you're renting a number, you need to provide postal address evidence that you have an entity within that country before you're able to continue to use that number. So that's something important that you need to just check before you select the number. And then once you've done that, your numbers will then be visible here in the My Numbers section of Bitrix24. And you can then start to use those numbers inside your Bitrix24 system. So you can see, I mentioned a benefit of using the Bitrix telephony feature here. It's that quick setup. It can literally be minutes to rent that number, add credit, and then you can start to use that number for receiving calls and then making calls out of Bitrix. And what's really nice when we rent those numbers, so you can see here we have 2 numbers that we rent. Each number that you rent, you can customize the setup and the settings of that number. So you can essentially set up your own virtual phone system for each number. Now, as you can see there, we have 2 numbers that we have rented. Really, there isn't the need to if you don't want to. If you work in, maybe you have separate offices in different countries, it's probably worth then having separate numbers. So you have a number for each country so people can call that office. But with that number, within Bitrix, we can then set up call routing and have that call go to the correct person at the correct time. So we'll take a look at that now. Okay, so inside here, this is one of our numbers that we've rented. So we can now configure the settings here. First of all, for inbound call routing. So we might want to play some welcome music that we can turn on. And we can then also set up a voice menu. So this is an IVR menu. So when the customer calls, we can give them specific options to choose from to have the call routed to a specific area of the business. So just before I go into there, this relates to this. It's setting up your call groups. So within the system here, you can set up different groups. So let's say we might have a sales group. You can see here I'm setting up a support group. So on here, I can select the users in our Bitrix who are associated to that specific group. And then in our IVR menu, I can then set up our structure here. So for example, we're going to select 1, and that will then be selected and sent to the sales group. Whereas if the customer selects option 2, we're going to send this to the support team. And let's say if we select option 3, I can forward it maybe to a certain employee or to a group. You've got different options here. Maybe leave a voicemail, for example. But I'm going to select here that we want to forward this to the reception team if we select option 3. And then we can type out our message here that will actually get relayed to the client when they call in, so they understand what the options are to select from. So we just added another option. So let's add the information. Okay, so you can add the message here, and then you can select how that message gets relayed to the user calling. So we can select the language here. We can select the speed of the automated voice, and we can select the volume as well. Or you can upload your own audio file. So you can pre-record your message and have that sent to the customer. So when they ring up, that is the audio file that gets relayed to the client, so they can then select the appropriate option. So it's really useful and really nice to have that option to be able to route the call to the relevant team or users in your business. We can also turn on CRM integration. So let's say if you might want it to create a new lead if the number that is calling in is not recognized in Bitrix. And we can also, really useful here is setting up call recordings. Okay, so you can set that, turn that on, have the calls recorded in Bitrix, and you can also play a warning message to warn the person that this message is going to be recorded, more like making them aware that this message is going to be recorded. We can also set up working hours. So maybe if there's only a specific period of the day where your team is accessible to answer calls, you can set that time up, and then we could set up an out of hours call processing. So you might enable voicemail or maybe forward it to an out of hours number that someone is designated to pick up. So there's lots of different configurations we can set up here to essentially set up a virtual phone system inside your Bitrix24 system. And what we'll do here is I'm just going to show you now what this looks like when a client in the CRM system calls into a number that we have rented. So we're going to see that what we'll have is a window pops up with the details about that customer. So we can see who is the person that's calling in. And then what we can do is we can, as we've just seen there, have call routing set up. So you can see now this person is Sam Connor calling into the system. So I can answer that call. I could ignore it. I could transfer it to a colleague, maybe once I've answered this call. But I can see all of the details about the customer before I'm even answering the call. So I know all of the information about the customer on the system before I've even answered the call. So it's a really nice integration that we have there to have all of the information available on our CRM platform with that telephony integration. And that information as well, we'll see in a second, this goes into the CRM system. So we saw how I had that setting turned on where we have call recordings and integration with the CRM. So let's go into the CRM system. And we'll go into our contact database. So this is where we do a full CRM webinar. So I won't go into the CRM in too much detail today, but essentially we have all of the information integrated for each contact on the system. So I can see that call history here. So I can play those calls back. Hello. So we can have that call history. So that's really useful. You can come back and play your calls inside the customer's record. I can click to call through Bitrix as well. So I can call the customer directly through the application and have that call recorded in the system, and you can see the history as well. And another really nice feature within the CRM, so we're seeing here some of the telephony functionality built into the CRM. Let's say within the lead section, you might want to create a call list. So we work with quite a few call centers that do, and sales teams that do bulk outbound calling to potential prospects. So what we can do in Bitrix is you can select, say, a group of leads here. So you might want to select specific segments of your database. And then I can create a call list here. So let's apply this. And then let's say as a sales manager, I want to assign this list to a specific user. So in our sales team, so I'm going to assign this to them and call this. And then I can choose what time that I want them to work on that list. So that's now been assigned to that user as their call list. And you can also use this as a semi-automated dialing system. So I could actually select that group of leads and I could then start to call them through the Bitrix system as well. So you can see this information here. I could then move on to the next call. They're not answering, move on to the next call. So you've got the ability there to manage a full call list inside your Bitrix24 CRM system as well. And one other really nice integration as well within the CRM here is the ability to set up calls as an automation as well. So inside leads and deals, you can set up your automations at different stages of the sales process. And an automation you can set up is you can make a call. So very much similar to that IVR menu process. What we can do is we can set up a message that gets spoken to the lead. So let's say here, for example, we can dynamically populate it with the lead's information. Okay, so I'm going to add this message here. So it can be dynamically populated with information from the CRM system. And then again, I can choose the language here. So I can choose the pronunciation of the message. I can choose the speed and the volume, or again, you could upload your own message. So if we save this here, what will happen is when the lead hits that stage and when that automation is triggered, it's going to send a phone call to that lead. And then that message that we've just typed in, that will be received as a voice phone call that the customer will hear when they answer the phone call. So it can be a really nice way to raise awareness and try and engage with your leads and deals through the CRM system as well. Okay, so that is a look there at Bitrix Telephony. So we really nice way to rent a number through Bitrix, and then we have that really tight integration with the CRM system. And if we have any questions about renting of the number through Bitrix, you can add that into our YouTube channel here. We're live right now to answer your questions. Or if you maybe want to go back and rewatch this, you can contact us, sales@intraface.com, and one of our team will be happy to answer your questions as well. Okay. So that was the first option, renting a Bitrix number. So that would be a brand new number from Bitrix, so you can't use an existing number. But for many businesses, that may not be the option because you maybe have an existing phone number that is known by all of your customers. So it's really not realistic for you to have an alternative number for the business. Or maybe you've set up a really competitive call package rate with your phone provider and you don't want to lose that cost contract that you have. So there are many reasons why continuing with your phone provider is actually the only option available to you. And that's where integrations come into the mixture essentially with telephony integration. So we have a few options when it comes to integration. So if we go back into the telephony module, the first option is if you have an Office or a cloud PBX, so a private branch exchange, then we have the ability here to use either the Office PBX or the cloud PBX configuration here. So this will use the SIP connector here on Bitrix. So the SIP connector, that will cost $49 per month for renting of the SIP connector. And you would then continue with your existing call rates package that you have with your phone provider. Now, in terms of configuring this, we click on the connect button here, and then this opens up a form with the credentials we need to fill in. Now, the credentials are slightly different depending if you have a cloud PBX or an Office PBX, but essentially we fill in the details here, and then you have 60 minutes to configure this and test it for outbound calls. So you get that time period to test to make sure the configuration and the settings work correctly. And that's the same on both the cloud PBX and the Office PBX. So if I show you the Office PBX here, you can just see the form is slightly different because it's an Office PBX that we're connecting. And you get that 60 minutes to test. Now, once you've done that, you then would need to purchase the SIP connectors to continue to have your lines connected into the CRM system. And then, as I say, you will just continue with the call rates package that you have with your phone provider. So that's the most common option for integrations. It's using the SIP connector to connect your lines into Bitrix. The next option is using the marketplace. Okay, so we can see further down here in the telephony integrations, then we have the application store. So within the Bitrix Marketplace App Store, there are over 30 different phone providers that have integrations with Bitrix24. So you can check inside here to see if one of your phone providers is available in here. Some very popular ones, such as Ring Central. There's also 3CX as well, or Zadama. Again, is a very popular integrated provider. So we have different options for using the Marketplace App Store to connect with phone providers. You will just need to check with each one. You may need to have a certain type of package with your phone provider or a certain plan on Bitrix. So you just need to check with each application here to make sure that you have the correct plan. So for example, here, you need to have a commercial Bitrix24 license. So if you're on the free edition, this isn't going to work for you. So it's little things like this that you just need to check are suitable for what you're trying to achieve. So those are two ways. So we've got the SIP connector to connect the PBX, or we can look at the marketplace applications. If neither of those work, the third way is looking to build a direct integration using the API. So we've done this before for businesses, and it gives them a really tight integration between their phone provider and Bitrix, but it can get expensive. So you could be looking in the region between $10,000 to $15,000 for a bespoke API integration with your phone provider. Okay, so that is a look there at the integration feature there for telephony. So we see there's a few different options there. And then moving on now to we've talked already about the costs for telephony throughout the webinar. So let's just focus again on those costs. So if you're going to rent a Bitrix24 number, then you need to look at the outbound call rates. So as I've mentioned, when you rent a Bitrix number, inbound calls are included in the monthly costs. So we saw, looking at the UK there, that the renting of a number is approximately $6 per month renting of the number. And then your outbound call rates, you just need to find the country you're calling to, and you can see the cost for calling a landline or calling a mobile here. So have a look at these numbers to see if that's suitable for you. If you're going to use the SIP connector, then for that, you need to use the SIP connector feature. So that's going to cost will cost $49 per month for the renting of the SIP connector each month. And then you will just continue with the call rates that you have with your phone provider. Or if we look at the direct integration using an API, that could cost in the region of 10 to 15,000 US dollars to build a bespoke integration for you. Okay, and then moving on to look at reporting now. So this is really if we're renting a Bitrix24 number. What we can do is we can analyze the call history and statistics inside the system. So if we come back into our telephony module inside Bitrix, first of all, we have our call details tab. So inside here, you will see every call history, inbound or outbound, that has taken place through the Bitrix24 system. And you can filter through this. So you might want to drill down into specific call types or based on who's responsible, for example, or looking at the CRM entity. So you can drill down into this information. You can also customize what information you display here. So you can turn on or turn off different data fields, and I can configure the UI here as well. So it's very flexible for your reporting needs. And then I can also export this information out of Bitrix into Excel. But we also have a more advanced reporting tool as well inside the system. So we can actually build dashboard reports to analyze the information. So here we can look at call statistics across a specific date range and looking at the call distribution amongst our employees. We can also look at analysis of unanswered calls, or maybe the call density. We have a lot of call centers that use this feature here because this is really useful to analyze where our call heat map is. So we can see when most calls come into the system, when calls are being missed. So I can see here at Tuesday, at 4 till 5 p.m., we're missing the most calls. So we need to analyze our staffing and reconfigure and make sure we have staff allocated at that time period of the day. So this call heat map, you can analyze all of that call history at a really high level to start to provide business intelligence within your organization. And then we also have employee individual performances. So we can look at the overall call distributions amongst our employees, and we can see maybe the call durations across our teams and their average call lengths across our different users on Bitrix. So there's lots of different reports that you can build and analyze of the call history data of your telephony module in Bitrix. Now, all of this information here, this is fairly sensitive information. You've got a permission tool inside the telephony module. So we can create different roles on the telephony module. And then based on each role, we can configure the settings. So we might remove access to the call statistics area that we've just looked at. And we might deny access for configuring the telephony settings, for example. So you can control what different user roles are able to do and to access through the telephony module inside Bitrix24. Okay, so that is today's total telephony webinar coming to an end. So we've seen how we can set up a virtual phone system through Bitrix24, and also how we could integrate an existing phone provider using either a SIP connector, marketplace application, or building a bespoke integration using the API. And we've seen how we can have that really tight integration with the CRM system, which is a really powerful tool. Have the calls recorded, make calls directly through the CRM. It just takes that CRM system to the next level for having communication integrated in Bitrix. And we've seen there how we can do dashboard reports to analyze that call history. And I think importantly as well, it's important to remember we have quite a low setup cost. If you're renting a number through Bitrix, it starts at $6 per month. It really doesn't cost much to have that virtual phone system set up through Bitrix. So thank you very much for your time today. You can see here a selection of our up and coming webinars. We're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can register intrace.com/webinars to register for all of our future webinars. So thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on our future webinars. Bye for now.